All right, today we're going to dive into something pretty wild. It's a really speculative system of thought called Lavemezhu, and what it does is propose this deep, functional connection between the planet and our own bodies, kind of blurring the line between technology, biology, and maybe even magic. So, let's get into it. So, let's just start with a simple question that really gets to the heart of the whole thing. What if you could actually control nature with just your thoughts? I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but it's really the front door to understanding this entire framework. Okay, so where does a massive idea like that even begin? Well, surprisingly, it starts with something you can actually touch, the plant kingdom. This first part, Magic, Moons, and Plants, is all about the foundation, the idea that we can directly influence the world of biology around us. At its root is this concept called moon magic. Now, this idea says you can have a direct influence over plants, making them sprout, grow, or even stop growing, all at will. It even suggests that using certain Kabbalistic words, you can think of them as verbal command codes for reality, could make a field incredibly fertile, or do the exact opposite and turn it into a wasteland. A pretty powerful thought, right? But here's the thing, influencing a couple of plants? That's just the tip of the iceberg. This system argues that this magic is really just an intuitive way of understanding a much, much larger system that works on a planetary scale. And to really get that, we need a more modern way of looking at it. And this brings us to the absolute core idea that holds this whole framework together, the truly radical concept that our planet, planet Earth, functions just like a giant transistor. A transistor is basically a tiny switch, right? It controls the flow of electricity. So how does that work for a whole planet? Well, the framework maps it out pretty clearly. The gate, the part that controls the flow, is the ionosphere. The channel that the energy flows through is the Earth's crust. And the current itself isn't electrons, like in our gadgets, but something called telluric currents. So what in the world are telluric currents? Well, here's the thing. They're totally real. This is actual science. They are naturally occurring, super low frequency electric currents that are constantly, and I mean constantly, flowing through the Earth's crust. You can almost think of them as the planet's own electrical circulatory system. So if the Earth is a giant transistor, and these telluric currents are the electricity, you can see where this is going, right? The next big question is, can we program it? Can we actually interact with this planetary machine? So here's the theory on how you would program the planet. First, you'd use technology, like ionospheric heaters, to warm up parts of the upper atmosphere. That alters the plasma density up there, which is basically like flipping the switch on the gate. In turn, that tunes or modulates the flow of those telluric currents down below. And what's the point? Well, the proposed applications are huge. Everything from stabilizing power grids to literally steering the Earth's natural energy. And this really reveals the sheer scale of the idea. It's not just about steering energy, it's about processing information. The source material puts it like this. It's about, quote, essentially turning the planet into a living, programmable computer. Okay, this is all fascinating on a massive planetary scale. But the Lavemezhu framework then makes a really bold leap. It asks, what does this cosmic engine have to do with you, with your own body? And here is the big reveal. This is where it all comes together. The system proposes a direct one-to-one analogy between the geosphere, planet Earth, and our own internal environment, specifically your gut. So look, this mirrors that planetary transistor we just talked about, and it's the key to the whole personal side of this. The Earth's soil and crust are compared to our gut and its microbiota. And those huge telluric currents flowing through the planet? Well, the theory says we have a biological equivalent, microtelluric currents flowing within us. The term the source uses for this is the microtelluric substrate. And what that really means is seeing our gut not just as a digestive organ, but as this electrically active environment, kind of like your own personal inner Earth crust that's just teeming with life and energy. Okay, so if our gut is an inner Earth, can we use the same principles of programming and modulation on ourselves? And that's what this final section is all about, the wild concept of terraforming the self. So the transistor analogy comes right back, but this time it's internal. Our digestive tract is the channel, and the gate, the switch, well, this is the really cool part. It's our own mind, our emotional and neuroelectrical states. The goal then is to learn how to use our own internal state to consciously flip the switch on our gut's biological functions, like metabolism and immunity. And the framework takes this idea even further, into some seriously deep territory. It suggests that this kind of internal control could even be used to reconfigure genetic patterns, what the source actually calls ancestral karma. This quote really sums up the whole philosophy perfectly. It says, bioetheric optimization of the gut is the ultimate act of terraforming the self. In other words, it's reframing personal health. It's not just diet and exercise, it's a form of conscious internal world building, of aligning our body's own energy. So we're left with this final, really provocative thought. We have this system that links the vastness of the planet to the intimacy of our own bodies, all through the idea of a circuit. And it really makes you wonder, if it's all one connected system, where does the programming actually begin? Does it start with us or with the world around us?